What if I told you that I'm normally a very rational, that's a word. What if I told you that I'm normally a very rational, reasonable person? But if someone were to touch me here, not here, not here, not here, but here, thusly, I do this. I can't help it. You bump into me by accident, I do this. You poke at me on purpose, I do this. It's just the thing I do. It's my right. I'm entitled to do this. When somebody touches me here, I've been told by my parents, by society, that if they touch me here, I can do this. Is that an asset or a liability? Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Is this a strength or a weakness? Particularly when somebody comes up and goes, watch this, guys, watch this. I'm going to make this guy do this thing. Watch. Poke, I do this. And somebody would say, Jess, why do you do that? You know that they're poking you to make you do this because they think it's funny, because they're trying to get a rise out of you. Why do you respond when they do that? Why don't you just not do it? And you go, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It's my right. I have to show them how strong and how powerful and how in control of the situation I am by responding like this. Does that strike you as strength or weakness? Power and control, or actually out of control? And see, and this is a very thinly veiled analogy. Many of you may see where I'm going with this already. When it comes to words, there are people who seem to treasure the ability to get offended, or the right to get offended when somebody says something to them, when they call them a name. Doesn't matter what the name is. There's two kinds of insults out there. There's a top tier and a bottom tier. The bottom tier is the very base insult or what have you. It's just a name. It can be a slur. It can be a profanity, a vulgarity, or what have you. It doesn't really say anything about your character. It's not calling you a liar per se. It's not really saying anything about you. All it's saying is, I disrespect you. I think you're lesser than. You and, hey, your whole race, per se. I hate all of you. It could say any of all things, but they're all there to communicate disrespect, disdain, disgust, what have you. It doesn't matter. We have selected some words, and one word in particular, I'm sure you all know, the word that must never be uttered. It's not in a different status. You can say, oh, it's got history, it's got this, it's got that. It's still a word designed to insult you, to offend you, to tick you off. And guess what? When somebody's trying to insult you, when somebody's trying to get a rise out of you, when somebody wants to see you do this, they're going to find the most efficient way to do it. And they're going to poke, and they're going to prod, they're going to figure out, oh, I can touch him here, and he'll do this, no matter what. That's how he'll behave. There are people that actually enjoy, it's called antagonists or instigators, or just really disgusting, vile people, and they're all over the place. They're all over in the world. They want to get a rise out of you. We call them in the interwebs, we call them a troll. But it's somebody trying to get a rise out of you. They're doing this for a specific reason. It's like getting candy. They realize if I push this button, I get candy. When you get angry, when you get offended, it's like candy to them. So they're saying, I want you to do this. I want you to behave in a certain way. So I'm going to do this. And you do it. Who's got the control? Who's got the power? They do. You don't. You're responding to them. You are, in essence, a puppet. They're going, I'm going to pull on this string and it's going to make his arm jerk. I'm going to do this and makes his arm jerk. I'm going to do this and it's going to do whatever. The idea is that they are in control. They have the power over you. You haven't taken the power of anything. You're not showing them what for. This doesn't do anything. Now, yeah, you may actually hit them in the face, and that's where the analogy kind of blends into the physical. You can actually fight them. You can try to punch them. But guess what? A lot of times when people are goading you, it's because they want you to fight them. You say, well, if they want to fight, nobody wins a fight. You talk to anybody. Yes, technically, in like a boxing match or MMA, somebody does technically win. But if you've seen the other guy, you've seen the guy who does win, he's usually not in the greatest shape. And some people do it as competitive drive, what have you. Again, that's something else entirely. But when you're actually in a fight, if somebody's goading you into a fight, like, I don't want to break my hand. I got a mouse. I got a keyboard. I got to do all this stuff for my job. I don't want a broken hand because somebody goaded me into fighting. And maybe I laid him out. Maybe I showed him that I was tougher. Maybe I did this. But I still have a broken hand. And now, I mean, technically you can't really, well, in this analogy, because they actually have a laid hand on me, you may be able to get away with, that you were actually physically provoked. But if we're going back to the words, you can't go in there and say, Your Honor, this person called me a bad word, and so I beat the crap out of him. That's not going to really work. So it doesn't really benefit you. I've worked with several martial artists and everything, and what they'll say, no matter what your training is, no matter anything, the first thing you do, run if you can, get away if you can. Nobody wins a fight. It's usually not worth it. There are things worth fighting for, but I'm going to tell you right now, somebody saying a word that you don't like, calling you a name that you don't like, that you have decided in your mind, And again, you can justify it any which way you want. You can build it up. It is a word. It is an insult. And again, it is a very base level. The next tier up is actually a more descriptive insult, like liar. Now, a liar inherently has negative characteristics, but that doesn't mean I'm actually trying to insult you. It literally just means I'm saying that based on your behavior. Jackass is kind of one that fits in the middle because jackass used to just mean somebody who's very stubborn because jackasses, donkeys are very stubborn. So you may call somebody a jackass, and in the classic term, it's a top tier because you're actually describing their behavior. Instead of saying, I have disdain for you, or I disrespect you, or I don't like this about you because you're stubborn, or that you're stubborn, and so therefore I don't like you, or I disrespect you, or I'm frustrated with you, I'm flummoxed with you, then it can be kind of helpful because it's actually describing your behavior in the insult. But saying somebody is, what's the popular right now? Racist. Saying somebody is racist, it means that you have done something to indicate that you are a racist. Your behavior, your modus operandi, the way you purport yourself, the way you carry on, would show that you are a racist. So there is a value associated with that. It's not just a word to be insulting. It is to describe an action that is, or a characteristic that is undesirable. And so either one, to be fair, for those of you who care, Jesus used the top tier. He actually called it, the only time he's ever actually insulted people in the Bible, and it wasn't an insult actually when Jesus does it because it is done in love, it's a rebuke. And again, he doesn't call them a name. He doesn't call them turd muffins or twits or anything. He called the Pharisees. Again, these are religious leaders. Those are the only people he actually rebuked in such a harsh manner. And he used the terms whitewashed tombs or whitewashed sepulchres, which is essentially saying beautiful on the outside, pure on the outside, looks amazing on the outside. Oh, so beautiful. Inside, death, decay, and rot. And also a brood of vipers. I think that one stands on its own. So again, there are rebukes that we can use that are actually descriptors. And that, especially if it's said by friends or family, people who know you, people who care about you, that's something you might take to heart. That's something you might chew on a little bit. You can get upset, you can get perturbed, but because we're human, and that's kind of if we get ruffled the wrong way, especially if it's not said in love, if it's said kind of they're angry and we're angry and they say it and then we, it doesn't go over well, but that doesn't mean there isn't some truth in it. If a complete stranger says it to you, and that's my other caveat to this, my whole point is, if you haven't noticed, words are not violence. Words do not inherently have power. You have to agree with words, especially when we're talking about profanity, when we're talking about insults, we're talking about slurs and all that kind of stuff. You have to engage. It's a partnership. Somebody says, I want to offend you. And you have to say, yes, I will be offended. It's not like, they say the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, not really. There are certain cases, but how many treaties have been signed? And then the person breaks it. And the sword ends up winning. There are definitely times the pen can be persuasive, that's an analogy, of course, for written or spoken words. If it wasn't useful, I wouldn't be doing this. It would be a waste of my time. It can find a root, but you have to partner with me. I'm talking to you, but you have to respond to me. You have to take it in. Otherwise, it's just words bouncing off of nothing. It's a bunch of cacophonous noise, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. So it requires an agreement and engagement. And we are responsible as listeners to take what we hear and respond in a responsible way. But so in other words, if you hear somebody say, oh, I heard blah, 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 I heard this gossip, whatever, either filter it out completely, or if it's something that could actually be relevant to your life or whatever, then you go investigate. Then you go check other sources. You don't just respond instinctively to it. Like, it's not a matter of, hey, don't say this. Don't put these ideas out there. No, you need to have the we need to have the responsibility to own what we hear. And you've heard people say, well, you hear me, but are you listening? And that's a trick. That is the way to pull the power out of the situation, as my mom said. Actually ignoring people. We can ignore people. It's a very useful skill, which is hearing but not listening. In other words, I can't make it so that unless I have like a headset or something, I can't make it so that I literally cannot hear what people are saying, especially if they're right in my face. Back in my day, bullying was done right in your face, and I got a lot of it. I was a very tall, skinny kid, Christian, the only one pretty much in the neighborhood. I got a lot of flack. I got a lot of lots of headaches, lots of bullies, had to deal with them in a variety of different ways. But the main one, the big one that my mom taught me at a very young age is pull the power out. They call you a name, you just go, okay, yeah. And what that is, that is essentially this. Poke me here and I go, huh? Really? Poke me again. What else you got? I don't know what this is doing. And here's the thing. When people are poking at you to get a reaction, when people are poking at you to get you to do something, because this is the thing, if they're trying to say something to insult you, and you say, well, yeah, of course I'm going to get insulted because they're trying to insult me. Again, they're trying to do something. They want to get a rise out of you. If you give it to them, who's the bitch? Who's the person being taken advantage of? Who's the person who's the puppet? Who's the going, okay, you do this and I'll do this. You say jump, I'll say how high. That's not a powerful position. What's more powerful, getting this, or again this? What? And here's the thing: when the instigators, when the people that were picking on me, the bullies, when they realized that their insults, that I was just agreeing with them, like it didn't matter. They were like, "Oh, Jesse, you know, I don't know." They didn't say. All I can think of is like modern day insults that are very graphic. We weren't as creative back in the early 80s. The insults were much less like sexually oriented, we'll put it that way, in terms of what you're going to do and where you're going to stick what and who can suck on what. It was never all that kind of stuff. But just say, oh, Jesse, you eat dirt or you eat poop. And I go, yeah, I eat poop. And back then I didn't really know what sarcasm was, so I wasn't doing it to be snarky. I was just literally agreeing with him. What does it mean? What does it cost me if I do that? What does it mean if somebody calls me whatever this and I go, yeah, you got me. And again, just a no, absolutely. Hey, you know me better than I do. Sure, go ahead. You're absolutely right. They look foolish because they're the one going, hey guys, look at this. Watch what I do to them. Poke. Poke, 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 poke. Dude, I thought you said he was going to do this. Yeah, well, he normally does. I don't understand why this isn't working. He's going to look like an idiot. And that's another, again, we really need to, I think, this slight segue here, I really think we need to sculpt our language very carefully. One side, and by one side I don't mean politically or what have you, but there is one side, we'll call it the chaos in the world, the evil in the world, wants to destroy meaning, destroy communication, keep us all shelled up and walled up and unable to communicate with each other. And to do that, you strip away language. You make one word mean 50,000 different things. So there's so much ambiguity that you're just naturally going to have conflict because you thought you were saying somebody looks pretty and somebody took it as, you think that they, are amorous with cows. It's the ambiguity it's designed that way to create contention and strife. The way you combat that is by being very specific and tailored with your words. And so you would say things specifically like idiot. I can't get into it now, but it's like idiot is not the same as stupid. Idiot is like inferring like a buffoonery or again, almost like a puppet thing. Like you are an idiot, like the term useful idiot, just somebody that goes, anyway, like I said, I'm not going to do it, but I was going to actually I'm thinking about doing a breakdown where you like dumb, stupid, foolish, like these are all different things and they should be used in different ways. I don't remember ever in a comment actually calling anybody a name. I know they didn't call them a name, but like I may have said like turd muffin or something like that. It sounds kind of cute. It's saying there's no animus behind it, but I'm saying, it's like saying poo instead of the other word. But I started using the word puppet now because puppet is people who dance, whether it's because they get insulted or because the news says, oh, this is fact. Here's your truth. And people go, oh my gosh. It's like you're a puppet. You're dancing. So there's plenty of puppets out there right now that are dancing like crazy to the tune of many different things and to the many different puppet masters. But the point is that you don't have to. And I was speaking with somebody who usually I find this in people who have grown up usually in a rougher upbringing, that they have a certain set of values where pride is like the most valued thing. There was one guy I remember in school, and in his mind, he sounded really cool because he said something like this. He was like, you talk about me, man, I don't care. You talk about my mom, it's on. And in his mind, I think he that made him look awesome. And people are going, whoa, he's such a badass because he's got a line. You don't cross that line, man. He'll let you get away with stuff, but boy, you cross that. You talk about his mom, he'll go crazy on you. And what I saw was, you insult me, I've got the maturity to handle it like an adult, and I'm not going to care. But you talk about my mom, oh boy, you talk about my mom, and I'm gonna, I don't know how to handle that. My mom told me right off the jump. I came home one time very, very livid because somebody was talking about my mama. And I've been told by at school, I hear enough people would say that, don't talk about my mom, that I realized, that I learned when somebody talks about my mom, I should be insulted, very insulted and indignant. And I came home and I told my mom about this. And I said, this is what this kid said about you. And she said, son, is that true? I said, no. She said, I don't care. I don't care what that kid said about me. It matters not at all to me. And if it doesn't matter to me, should it matter to you? Well, no. She says, you know what would upset me? You know what does matter to me? If my son gets suspended because he hits somebody for saying something stupid. So just ignore it. Literally ignore it, which again is the art of hearing but not listening. So you can say all the words you want to me, either I'm just going to ignore you completely, or like I said, you just agree with it. You take the power out of the situation. But, and getting back to my point, I'm used to hearing that kind of rhetoric from, again, people that I don't necessarily align with on a lot of things, because their value system is very different than mine. But I was talking with somebody who we do share a lot of the same values. We do have a lot in common. And I was kind of very surprised when I said this, and this is referencing the word that must never be uttered. Not, slandering the name of Jesus, which, is my Lord and Savior and God and everything. Not that. No. That's not the sacred name. No, it's this one word that must never be said. Because, and let me just pile on all the reasons why it shouldn't be said. And for them, it was like, no, if they say that, they're trying to offend me and I'm going to get offended. And the idea was, the communication was, this is precious to me. I have a right to get offended at them. I have a right to do this. I have a right to respond in that manner because they've intentionally done that to me, and I'm not going to let them get away with it. What exactly that means, I don't know, because, again, for most people who aren't willing to resort to physical violence, what are you going to do? You're just going to carry it around with you. It's a big sack of crap is what it is, a big sack of poo. It stinks, it's odorous to you, and guess what? It's going to be odorous to other people. It's resentment, it's bitterness, it's anger, and you're just carrying it around like it's some treasure thing. Like, I have a right to hold on to this. I have a right to have this. I have a right to do this. And it's not a matter of whether we have a right or an obligation or anything else. Why on earth would you choose to do that? It doesn't benefit you at all. Anger, bitterness, resentment, these do not benefit you. They're not getting you anywhere in life. And again, by the nature of it, the fruit of anger, the fruit of bitterness, the fruit of resentment is destruction and death. It may not be like an immediate, physical death, but it is the death of your soul. It is the death of your happiness. It is the death of your dreams. It's going to leach all the joy out of your life. And when I was talking to this person, it just became clear that this anger and resentment, for whatever reason, was very near and dear. And it was something that they needed to claim, that they needed to hold on to. And literally it was, again, the absurdity of it is, well, if they're going to poke me, they're wanting me to do this, then I'm going to do this exactly the way they want me to do it. I'm like, how does that not strike you as weak? How does that not strike you as that they're manipulating you? That you are a puppet, that you are, that they have all the power, they have all the control. You're not taking the power out of, again, the word that must never be spoken. You're not taking the power out of that by acting angrily, by acting in aggression or what have you. That is not power. That is not strength. You are not removing it. All you're doing is encouraging them to keep poking you and to keep poking. Because most people, again, I'm not going to call you the word that must never be mentioned or any other racial slur any more than I'm going to call you just a flat out name. Like I said, turd muffin, maybe. I don't think I've ever called anybody a turd muffin to their face. I don't know what kind of reaction that would get. They may just laugh at me, which would be fine. But I'm not going to say that, one, because it doesn't communicate anything. And two, I don't need to say I disrespect you. I don't need to find a really crass way to say that to somebody. I'll just walk away. There's plenty of other ways to do it functionally that actually extricates me from their presence or the situation without actually having to say, oh, rah, rah, rah. And, if they want to pursue it after that, well, then we see where it goes. But there is no need to react that way. And that's the thing. It's a conditioning. We've told ourselves or been told by our parents, whether our parents raised us, pride is all you got. If you don't got pride, if somebody insults your pride, you've got to fight them. You've got to fight for it. You've got to show them that you can't be pushed around. There's a difference between literally being pushed around and actually and metaphorically with words being pushed around. Big, big difference. And so if somebody's literally pushing me around, I respond in a different way. If somebody's just saying stuff, again, you just ignore it. It's waft, it's air. It can't do anything. Now, I think I mentioned this. I don't know. I've been saying a lot, but the exception is if friends or family, people who know you, people like that can hurt you, and I shouldn't say it should hurt you, but in terms of it will. I mean, because it's people that know you. It's on a deeper level. That's a betrayal. Hurts so much. It would be like a betrayal if somebody says something specifically, and usually it's very surgical because they know what your weak points are, and they said something like that. Yes, that can hurt you. That can bring you down. That can devastate you. An authority figure, a teacher, a pastor, a parent, those can be very devastating. But a stranger on the internet or in your face or just some rando, you're going to give them that kind of authority in your life? That just strikes me as absurd. And again, I'm not trying to take something cherished away from you. Like I don't understand. Maybe that's again, it's a pride thing, which again, pride. There is no context in which pride is ever an asset. Not like, oh man, that guy really made a difference because of how prideful he was, or that just it's usually pride goes before a fall. Ego is really what it is. And here's the thing: there's been two conditionings that are going on at the same time, and they're for two different kinds of people. The one kind of person, imagine how soft you make somebody if you can condition them, if you can get it in their head. And and when I'm talking about people, I'm talking about anybody. This is not about race. It's not about gender. It's not about none of that. It's not specific. It could be me. It could be anybody. If you can condition people to be devastated, to be crushed by words, which again, very easy to ignore, well, I shouldn't say easy. You have to train. You have to work on it. It's a trait. It's a skill. And it doesn't do you any good to hear the words, listen to the words, and then just bottle it up. That's not what you want to be doing. If you're going to ignore them, if you're going to go that route, you need to get into your head where you just start thinking about something else. I started citing Return of the Jedi. I had the whole script memorized at one point when I was growing up. And so I would just start playing Return of the Jedi at some point in my head and just kind of have a bemused smile on my face and let them say whatever they're going to say. But I'm in Jabba's palace. Now I'm, with Yoda. And now I'm seeing that awesome fight scene at the very end between Luke and Vader. But you have to teach yourself to do that. But if you can condition a society to truly equate words or even silence, the antithesis of words, with violence, you are creating the softest, most vulnerable, fragile creatures on earth. Because if that is your threshold, if you're going, oh my gosh, these words, they hurt me, I can't hear them, I can't do this, or oh, you're doing any of that. When there's actual violence, when there's actual things that should cause a reaction, you're just going to freeze up because your threshold has been set at words. You're unable to handle these people. There are many people that are unable to handle words. Words are kicking my butt right now. They can't handle these words. And so they become these, again, very delicate creatures that cannot stand up to any significant adversity. And I'll tell you right now, if you can't handle, particularly online, I would have loved, when I was growing up, I would have loved to have been bullied on the internet. Because a mouse click, a swipe, whatever, they're gone. They're out of my face. I can ignore them. I can block them. In my day, they were in your face. They were at the bus stop. They were at the lunch table. They were at recess. It was very difficult to get away from bullies back in the day when they actually did it in person. Now, I'm not saying they don't do that now, and that's a whole different ballgame. So that is one side of conditioning. You're conditioning I guess a certain type of person. Maybe those that are more prone to be emotional. You're conditioning them to be incredibly weak, to set their threshold for pain or for adversity so low that when actual adversity really occurs, when something really happens, they're incapable of handling it. The second conditioning happens for another group of people, maybe the more logically oriented. I don't know. I'm making this part up, or I'm just kind of going off the cuff here. But just another segment of the population, if you will. You're conditioning them to believe that words are powerful. Pen is mightier than the sword. Our words are transformative. And again, I'm not out, ruling those out altogether. But let's just say a random example. Let's say there was a movie production company, right? And they're putting out an atrocious movie, a movie that bastardizes everything you believe and everything you cherish. And it's maybe it's a series, or maybe it's a property, an IP, an intellectual property that you cherished and that you grew up with. And they're going to take that, and they're going to take the shell of it, the very, like, the basics of it, and they're going to mutilate the heck out of it. And they're going to turn it into something really ugly and farcical and a complete shadow of what it was. And you go, you know what? I hate that. And so what do you do when the trailer comes out? You downvote it, you give it the dislikes, and you give it all kinds of mean comments, or you quote the author or some original text, right? I'm speaking I don't know why I'm speaking vague about this. It's not like I can't say Lord of the Rings on the internet, but I didn't want to limit it to that. It could be any property or any movie or anything that you see. And you go, I'm going to dislike the crap out of it. I'm going to comment all over the place. That's not bad, because if nothing else, it is at least putting it out there that, hey, you're not alone. If you're offended by this, again, offended, choose to be offended. If you find this distasteful, if you do not like this, and again, I mean, I'm not saying that I'm immune to all this or that I can't. I mean, offense, it's a rush. Not going to lie. I tried it once. I saw something and I was like, I'm going to take offense to this. And I got all riled up, and boy, the superiority you feel. It's like, man, I automatically command Like I'm already above you because my morality, like I have elevated myself in my outrage and in my offense. I have elevated myself above you. And now I'm superior over you. It's a great feeling. It's a rush, but it's weak. It's just like anger. Anger can be useful in different times. Anger can lead you to do things that you wouldn't normally do. Like somebody's in an abusive relationship and they get pushed and pushed and pushed. Finally, they get angry enough. They go, you know what? I'm out of here. They take their stuff and they leave. And by the time they calm down, they're gone. And then they're like, I should go back. But no, I already did it. I can't go back. I already made this choice. I already said these things. I'm done. And it's like, you would not have got there without the anger. So anger can be useful. My belief, don't sin in your anger. Don't do something stupid in your anger. Don't, do it, do really like hurt people in your anger. But it can be useful. It can be useful. But in general, when somebody feels angry, like it makes you feel powerful, it puffs you up. It's like, oh, I'm so angry. Rawr. But unless you're the Hulk, which none of us are, that anger is actually weakness. It blinds you. It screws with you. It screws with your head. It screws with your emotions. It makes you all kinds of unstable and everything else. So anger is not an asset to you either. But when you feel angry, you're like, oh yeah, this is great. It's just like feeling offended. Just like, it's fantastic. That is not the truth. Anger and offense are not helpful. And I'm repeating myself now because I forgot where I was going. Son of a gun. I'm gonna have to cut here. Right. Okay. So I was talking about going back to the other population. The idea that I can do a bunch of dislikes, I can put a bunch of comments in there, and again, while they certainly do have their value, they're not worthless. We are being told that that's all we have to do. All we have to do is make a stink on Twitter. All we have to do is downvote enough stuff. All we have to do is retweet stuff. All we have to do is ratio somebody, and that's winning. And it's not. It's again, it can bolster people. It can tell people, hey, you're not alone, or I also feel this way. It can bring people together. But if you tell somebody, I hate your product. Credit card. I hate your product. Your product is poo. Give me 2 dozen. Thank you so much. I hate your product and you are not a good person either. Thank you for my poo. Do they care? No, in fact, they know it's poo. They know they're shoveling poo at you and they're just happy that you're eating it because guess what? Poo is a lot easier to produce than actual high quality products and everything else. You give them your money. You say, oh, you know what? That studio, you know what? I'm going to hate watch it. I'm going to hate it. I'm going to not like it, but I'm going to watch it anyway. The 50 comments you left mean absolutely nothing because you've enabled them to make more. Your dollar, your attendance at the park, your attendance at the theater, your attention on their platforms, that is far more valuable. So you condition one type of person to be very, very fragile and frail and conditioned to be incredibly weak. The other side, you've conditioned them to think that all they have to do is use words. What is the buzzword? Oh my gosh. Awareness. Oh my gosh. Oh, we got to spread awareness. We got to make them. Awareness is cheap. We're in the world of the internet. Awareness is everywhere. Truthful awareness, that's something a little bit different, but awareness is everywhere. So somebody who goes, well, I tweeted this out 15 times, or I retweeted this, or I did whatever. It's getting the word out there. Okay, you are disseminating information, and depending on the quality of the information, it's a good thing. But that in itself doesn't do anything because everybody just disseminates information and everybody's very much aware and everybody keeps behaving in the exact same way and feeding into the exact same things that they say that they hate or they despise or they don't want to support. It does absolutely nothing. I've seen different events and things where people get on there and they're like, well, this person should be ashamed of themselves. And, my thoughts are with you. And it's like, okay, again, there's value in encouragement. And I'm sure people can look at that and go, yeah. But we can't just go rah, rah, rah and believe that we're winning just because we're putting words into the air. Words only go so far. Sacrifice is what it takes. There is no sacrifice in retweeting. There is no sacrifice in leaving a comment or a thumbs down. It takes very little action whatsoever, let alone actual sacrifice. To win, to actually prevail, to get what you want, it requires sacrifice. End of story. It's going to happen. At some point, you're either going to have to sacrifice a little bit now or you're going to sacrifice a heck of a lot later. That's how it works. There's no getting around it. If you can convince people of the great lie that words are all you need. And you know what we've done? We've seen it. We've seen it on Twitter. We've seen very small groups of people be very, very loud and get what they want. That's conditioning. That's telling you, hey, well, all we got to do is be very loud and we'll get what we want. No, they got what they wanted because the people that gave it to them wanted to give it to them. It was in their best interests. I tell you right now, Twitter, as it stands now Elon just bought it and who knows where it's going to go from here. But I believe 100% that Twitter was the idea was to make the minority seem like the majority, give the illusion that mob mentality actually will rule the day, and that you can affect you great change just by tweeting and saying you should be ashamed of yourself. And so we see that and we go, oh, wow, that's how you affect change. Just get a bunch of downvotes, just get a bunch of retweets. Like, no, again, if you're not part of that agenda, they're going to just ignore you. And we've seen it. I mean, if anybody's paying attention, there's been a lot of outcry about a lot of different things, and nothing is really changing. Now, you can see things shifting, or you can kind of feel. People say, I get a feeling for it. And I'm not disagreeing with that. I kind of get a little feeling too. But, and that again, we're in the beginning stages of that. But again, you see nothing is directly changing just because there's outrage or because people are standing up. It's certain kinds of people saying the right thing to unlock what other people want to do. And again, so Twitter is just largely, it is a false demonstration of the power of social media. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't have power, that it doesn't influence people, but again, it's your responsibility. You give it the power that it has. You read something on Twitter, it gets you all aflutter. You decide you're going to believe it, just regardless. You're going to retweet it. You're going to do all this stuff. I mean, that's your choice. But it cannot naturally, inherently affect you. Just bringing it back around, just as words. So it's more of an encouragement. Like I said, I don't know how to get there, because ever since I was a little boy, I was raised to take the power out of words. You can do that. Again, pen is mightier than the sword. Hey, have you heard this phrase? We have just established peace in our lifetime. Oh no, wait, that's not it. It's close to that though. I don't remember the guy's name. British guy. Anyway. We have established, no, not established. It's not established, but I don't care. I'm not going to get hung up on words, even though, like I said, we need to be very specific. I'm going to misquote the heck out of that. But that we need to, that we have achieved peace in our lifetime. And if I'm not mistaken, a war, a very, very violent, very big war happened right after that, because a person who signed the treaty didn't give a rat's patoot about the treaty. You sign a contract with somebody, guess what? If they want to break the contract, they're going to break the contract. The pen itself does not have inherent power. And in fact, like I said, in the case of words, going, oh, we signed a treaty. You signed with your pen. Take out a sword, poke, you're done. Your pen means nothing. It's only in certain situations. It's not a blanket thing. Words do have the power to be transformative, but we have to give them that power. It is an exchange. You are having to agree with the words. My point is not that there won't be a natural reflex or there won't be a natural reaction to somebody saying that is offensive, especially when you're first starting out. It's natural. Even if you aren't just starting out, even if you're a seasoned pro at ignoring stuff and taking the power out of it, things are still going to catch you off guard. There's going to be that natural reaction. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with this if that's what you want to do. But there's a better way, is all I'm saying. And that to refine that, and that it is not worth holding on to it. This is not a right. And I don't mean that in a bad way, like, oh, you don't have the right to get offended. No, you have the right. I don't care. You have all the authority in the world to get offended if somebody pokes you right here. That's well within your bounds. Why you would want to establish that weakness, like I said, that's walking around with a liability. You're walking in the subway and somebody bumps into you by accident and you do this. Who knows who you could hit? But I mean, it's the compulsion to react in a certain way, to have a bad day, to have a bad attitude, to get angry, to have that vulnerability, that weak spot where all you do. And it's one thing to say, you know what, I understand it. Like, look, it is the exhaust port on the Death Star. It's the torpedoes right to my core, and I'll blow up if it goes in there. But you know what? I'm working on it. That's not a good thing. It's not a right thing. What I guess has flummoxed me and what compelled me to do this is the notion that yes, it's a weakness. Yes, it's a weak spot. But guess what? It's my weak spot. And I have every right to blow myself up when somebody shoots at me. And it's like, look, if you can not blow up when somebody shoots at you, why in the world would you want to blow up? Why would you want them to impact you? Because guess what? They don't care how angry you get. Actually, the angrier the better for most people. So you can be like, oh boy, and in your mind, you're like, I'm not going to, because that's the other thing too. It ties into when people say, I'm not going to forgive that person. Not, I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive them, or it's really hard. I don't know that I'll be able to do it, or what have you. That's you working through pain or grief or whatever it is that's causing you to not be able to forgive somebody. But to say, I'm not going to forgive them. The illusion is that it's powerful. And yes, spiritually, if you believe in this kind of thing, you are locking them out. There is a spiritual ramification of you not forgiving them that does in some ways kind of screw them over. But it screws you over even more. Like it is not just a one-way thing. You are essentially saying, I'm going to hold on to this, and there's a lot that's not going to be able to get through to you. Again, if you pray or what have you, you may not be able to hear from God. You may not have any sensitivity to that because you have created this obstruction, and you're saying, I'm going to hold on to my resentment. I'm going to hold on to my unforgiveness. I have a right to hold on to it. And maybe you do. Maybe you don't. A lot of people, they get angry about stuff. It's like, you don't have a right to get angry about that. Like that's not justifiable. You're mad. I understand that, but you don't have a right to be. But even if you do, again, it's a liability. Don't embrace it. Don't hold on to it. It's a sack of poo. So I'm not going to belabor the point anymore. Again, if you watched this far, thank you so much. That's all I got for now. I'll talk to you later.